Welcome back to Ascension TV Online. I'm Caroline Mary, I'm your host, and I'm so happy to welcome on the show Lesley Grace. Hello, Lesley.
Hello.
Lesley is an animal communicator, and she's also runs an art business, as we've just been talking about. And I met Lesley through beautiful Diana Saville, who is a co-author of mine and a beautiful teacher of tarot and violet flame and all sorts of stuff. So, Lesley, I'm so excited to have you on the show and talk about your preferred work in the world with animal communication. So first of all, where are you in the world? I don't know where you are.
I'm in East Sussex in
It's
England, in the UK.
brilliant,
Yes.
brilliant. So
Yeah.
I'm
And it's
right in the,
very, very hot here at the moment.
oh yeah, it's been amazing, hasn't it? And
Hmm.
yeah, I feel so happy. I really love the sunshine. I'm a Leo, and I'm like, yep, gimme. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I know, some people really struggle, don't they? But yeah, I love it. So Leslie, let's dive in. Tell me what it is you do. You said you've been teaching earlier this year as well. What have you been teaching? Tell us all about it.
Okay, so I'm a Reiki teacher. I also teach animal communication.
Yeah.
Um, those are my two key subjects. Obviously, I'm healer as well. That's what I do.
Mhm.
And like we were just talking about, I run a business called Skylark Animal Art as well, where we myself and my partner work with that together. So the two either side are me behind me, and the one in the middle, which is Archangel Michael, is my partner. So um,
Beautiful.
keeps us busy, but there hasn't been so much time for it this year because I think lots of people are kind of reaching out um, to find another way of being, I think, and
Mhm.
also people tuning into their animals and wanting to know what's going on with them, because there's so much that goes on underneath the surface that
Sure.
people don't really, or some people don't really realize.
Yeah.
I've also worked in veterinary practice. I started my working life with animals in dog behavior.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's kind of what got me into that. And I ran my own behavior practice for a long time, many years, and then I needed something else. And so I went to work at a veterinary practice, and that's what got me into all of this stuff.
Amazing. So take me back. When was it that, like, what was one of the first experiences you had? So you were working with them in a kind of practical, almost like psychology way, and then it transitioned into the psychic communication. Am I right in understanding that? So it wasn't
Mm,
always,
well,
it
it's
was,
a slightly long story how it all really unfolded because in my head, life is like this ginormous jigsaw puzzle,
yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
little bits plop in as we
yeah,
go. And the first sort of conscious bit of my jigsaw puzzle was I used to ride horses when I was a child.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I always knew what the horse was feeling, whether it was upset, um, whether it was happy, whether it wasn't. And sadly, I have to say, a lot of the horses at the riding stables where I was weren't super happy. But I was 8 when I started, and that got me on a road and a passion for horses and a passion for dogs, which. Oh my goodness, when I was a little kid, I used to write my parents' notes every night and stick them under my bedroom door begging for a dog, you know.
Bless you. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so when I was 13, I was riding a horse who wasn't a happy horse. I've communicated with him since in my adult life, since he's passed to spirit. But he wasn't a happy chappy. And
Mhm.
the way that he showed that was through aggressive behavior.
Okay.
He would bite, he would kick, he would, if he was just not happy. And
Yeah.
one day he threw me off his back
Okay.
and threw me across a tree trunk that had fallen down, and I broke my back. So
Right.
that was really pivotal point number one for me, because my
Mm.
mum took me to a healer who said, "You're a healer." And my
Right.
little 13-year-old brain kind of banked that one,
Yep.
but I got on with life, like you do, had jobs that I hated, sitting behind a desk, behind a computer,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Had kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
managed to get a clan of dogs of my own. I think I had six at one point,
Beautiful.
which was fabulous. And um, then I started working at the vets, and the vet brought in a little cat that had been run over, and
Okay.
it was in a really bad state. And I thought, well, yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. But it
Oh,
got to the weekend and there was no one on call to look after it. And so I crated it up and took it home to my spare bedroom and turned my bedroom into a hospital room because this little cat was in such a bad way. It couldn't wee for itself and it had to have its bladder manually expressed and all the rest of it. And I sat down with the cat and my heart just went out to it. It was fitting about every half an hour. It was just awful. And this man's voice echoed through my brain. And I
okay.
thought, ooh, well, let's give it a try. I'm
Okay.
fiercely practical.
Yeah.
I'm very down to earth, a
Mm,
bit blunt. And so I sat there and shouted out to God. That's the only point of reference I
mm,
had.
mm.
I went to a church school. I used to swing on my swing real high just in case God could see me, when I was a kid, all of those things. So I just sat there and went, right, God, come on, bring it on. If this is a thing, if
Yeah.
this is real,
Yeah.
do it. Come on, just bring it on. And I sat there and I didn't really feel anything going on, and I thought, oh well, it's obviously woo woo and made up. It's
Right.
rubbish. And then I went to try and remove my hands from said cat, and
Oh, okay.
they were stuck to the cat like a magnet, and I
Right.
lost all concept of space and time then. And eventually, it was time for me to move my hands, so I did, and the cat didn't fit again. And by the time I took it to work on Monday morning, it was weeing for itself and it survived.
Yeah.
And we all just stood around in the veterinary practice going, wow,
Wow.
what just happened? So I
Okay.
went on a quest. I went on a quest to find out what this energy healing thing was.
Okay.
Um, and obviously, I was gravitating towards animals
Yeah.
because, well, I think I can speak for lots of people here when I say at that time in my life, I preferred animals to people. It has
Mhm.
swung round now, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no real agenda with animals. They are what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'd always been into animals. So
Yeah.
I went off on a quest and tried all sorts of different things and eventually found Reiki. And that was the beginning of my enormous journey that I'm still on now, and passion. But through working at the vets, some of the people I was working with started to say, well, try it on my horse or
Yeah.
try it on my cat, see
Mhm.
what happens. And then some said, you need to talk to my horse because he's not happy. He's
Right.
just not happy. He's out on loan and he's really acting out. And so I that was my first official animal communication where I sat down rather than just picking things up from animals. Um,
Mm.
I sat down with an intention to find out what was going on with the horse. And he
Okay.
told me. And I don't want to break their confidence, but he told me what was happening and that he
Yeah.
wasn't happy. And she moved him immediately from the yard where he was, and he lived out the rest of his days happily. And it was at that point I thought, blimey, this stuff can really make a difference. Oh my
Oh my
goodness, you
Yeah.
know? And
Oh,
so that got
wow.
me on this journey really of animal healing. I used to only work exclusively with animals. I didn't really work with people until people started saying, well, you've done my animal, now I
Yeah.
want to
Pick
go.
me up. It's
So
interesting you say that, isn't it? Because what I'm just seeing is then a lot of people say, oh, my animal, blah, 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 like their kids. Oh, I remember years ago, a lady said, oh, can you help my daughter? And I was like, maybe I need to help you, because why is your daughter, like, you came first, and you're, as far as I'm seeing, like, you're, I didn't say it like that, and she really was a bit like this, and it's like, well, I'm not trained in working with children, I was barely trained then, really officially, but so, but it's interesting, isn't it? I love that, the way in, so somebody's like, help my animal, and then they can see it happening, and they'll
Yeah,
take
and
help.
the more that I've done this work and the longer that that goes on, um, we were just speaking before we came on about everybody's connected, everything is connected. But
Oh,
oh boy, the entwinement between animals and their humans is unbelievable. And
yeah, yeah.
it's my opinion that an animal doesn't end up with a particular person purely out of chance.
So I
That they
so
are meant to
do.
be relationships.
I've always felt the same. I have so many shivers, and honestly, I have so much happiness of talking to you about this, because I don't have an official context with which to do that work. It's not, I don't think it's my thing, but I've always seen that. And people, if they're moaning about their animal, I'm like, maybe it's a mirror, or I would get intuition of they're not happy, or how you're treating them, or it's a reflection of your energy. And so something that came really, it really brought it home, is that I've always also loved horses and dogs, never had a problem with dogs. I would just go up, my mum, as a kid, I would go up to this Rottweiler my friend's dad had, and I was like, oh, and my mum's like, oh, and I just have no filter. I just love animals, again, more than people. And then I got had like a, not an attack as in a bite, but like a really strong, like a threatening, a prolonged threatening from a really big dog in Portugal. And ever since then, I'm really sensitive. My nervous system hasn't quite healed from it. And I can really see now how dogs shift on a ninepence if they sense my energy, my heckles, and how quickly. And the people don't always know that about their animal, and so it's really
No,
a whole new layer of understanding of that.
absolutely. And there's so much there, what you've just said
Yeah,
too. So,
yeah.
the first thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is that dogs are generally non-verbal communicators. So the way
Mhm.
that they communicate is through a series of body language
Mm.
signals. And the majority of people don't know what those signals are.
Mm.
So a dog could be giving off all the signals that another dog would understand. Ooh, I need to back off here because this dog is not happy. It's feeling threatened.
Sure.
It could be doing things with its eyes, its tail carriage. I used to write for a dog magazine, and I wrote an article once called "Wagging Tails Don't Always Mean Smiling Faces," because there are different wags, and
It's
but
that's
people will
really.
see a wagging tail and just assume the dog is happy. um, different things that they do with their mouths, all of those things, they'll give you all those signals generally before they start showing teeth and before they give a verbal warning or the growl.
Wow, yeah.
And then if you ignore the growl, well, it's your own fault if you get bitten, in my opinion, because obviously I'm going to come down on the side of the dogs.
Yeah, I got
But
you.
these things in certain breeds of dog, this whole chain of events can happen really quickly. There are genetic predispositions. So if you're like a German Shepherd dog, you're going to be really sharp and quick and switch quite quickly. And this is
I
where people say it attacked without warning. Well, it probably did warn, but were you looking what its ears were doing and
Yeah, yeah,
all the rest of it?
I
So
that.
um, that's not animal communication, that's body language. Animal communication that I do is slightly different,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
all relevant because it's all part of the same thing.
yeah. I
But what animals pick up from their humans is unbelievable and will often bring it into a communication setting and say, okay, well, we've done that now. Now we need to look at her. So I'll give you an example. I was painting a portrait of a dog. This was the back end of last year, and I quite often end up connecting with the animal that I'm painting, not in a full communication way because I don't allow that, but I pick up bits. And
Mm.
I picked up that this dog needed healing. And I didn't know the lady who I was painting the portrait for, but I thought, oh dear, this dog needs some healing.
Yeah.
So I messaged the lady and said, look, my other hat is this. Um, and this wasn't touting for business. I didn't charge her anything for this, just so we know that. But I said, I'm picking up that your dog needs healing. This is what I do. If you think I'm a fruitcake, just tell me and I'll leave it there. But I'm
Yeah.
happy to send him healing if you would
Sure.
like. And she said, yes, please. And so off I went to do healing and felt that the dog was really quite unwell.
Right.
Which
Okay.
she confirmed for me. But I had a good healing session with the dog. But then the dog was like, I'm paraphrasing here because it doesn't quite happen like having a cup of coffee with another human being. But
Okay.
these are the impressions that I got. Okay, so I'm done now. You're finished with me, but you need to talk to her because
Yes.
she needs to look after herself. She's working too hard. She's not looking after herself well enough, and it's making her have really bad headaches. And when I fed this back to the lady, she said, I've just got out of bed this morning after 3 days with a migraine.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely bang on. And I said, well, he's worried about you. And because he was terminally ill, he wasn't prepared to go
And
until he
you.
knew that his message had been fed back to the lady and she
God.
could look
Yeah.
after herself and sort herself out because he was kind of holding this space for her. So
Yes.
this is how interconnected everything is.
Yes.
It's
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
it's
I am
it's
thinking
unbelievable,
um
really.
some as you're talking, I'm thinking of some specific situations in my life that I've witnessed that, and how I haven't always saw myself as psychic. I had this download that I was a healer when I was younger as well, and then again, you get on. But actually, you're really confirming it, because I used to think, the person is looking at the animal going, "Oh, no, no," and I'm like, when I'm looking at you, I'm feeling that it's like they're mirroring that, so that they're trying to tell the human, like, you've got to sort this out. And you're not
Absolutely.
looking at yourself, you're looking at the animal, and they are like our spirit guides, like we can have, in spirit, animal guides, right? But other people, I don't have any animals. I live in a flat, and I wouldn't subject any animals to that, but we other humans that don't maybe have know they have spirit guides, they have an animal come to them, and it's the same. They serve that purpose, isn't it? Oh, amazing.
Absolutely. So I think it's the whole point of the communication isn't to I have had people ring me up and say, right, you need to tell my horse to stop
Oh,
biting me.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
no, it doesn't
No.
work like that. What
Yeah.
what it
Okay.
works like is, let's find out why the horse feels the need to bite you. So
Super
there was
good. Yeah.
just this very morning I saw an article in the newspaper about a racehorse who had kicked its trainer in the head, and this was caught on camera. And my initial thought was, okay, why?
Why? Yeah.
Why? Because a horse won't do that just for the heck of it, you know? So there will be a reason. And because horses are prey animals, they're on survival the whole time. They're on the lookout for threat. And was it an accidental, she came behind the horse and made it jump, or is there a little bit more to it than that?
Mm.
Um, so yes, and I've there are several case studies now of animals who actually mirror the exact same disease as their humans, the same forms of cancers,
Yeah.
everything. But
Yeah.
then I don't think of them as spirit guides so much as teachers. because
Teacher,
they come
sure.
into our lives for a variety of reasons. And
Sure.
occasionally that could be the animal who comes along to teach you a new way of managing your own emotions. Um,
Yeah.
Perhaps comes along to teach you patience, or
Mm.
comes along to teach you not to um, get into a heightened state of anxiety, because they're showing you what that looks like and what happens to them when they do it. And therefore, they can actually end up teaching the human, okay, I see this in my animal. And sometimes this is a really subconscious thing. These aren't conscious thoughts that people have. They just start to observe, and they start to
Yeah.
just
Brings
start
it into
to
their field, doesn't it? It
make a
brings it
change in
into
their own way of being. And sometimes animals, really sadly, only come in for a really short space of time to do a specific job for their human, and then they leave the physical world again. And that can be really heartbreaking, because we feel the loss acutely when our animals pass away. But
yeah.
having a part of my work is end of life care for animals and people too, and I have witnessed so many crossings over, um and it is such a beautiful thing that even though with my own animals I feel I miss their faces around me all the time, um I know that they're okay, and I know
Mm.
that they're happy. And most importantly, I know that they are pain free. Um,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I'm not in complete contact with my passed away animals all the time, but every now and again they will just pop in to say hi, kind of thing. And one of my dogs used to lick the dishwasher every night. I could never stop her. She was a stubborn golden retriever, and
Oh,
I just gave up after a while.
yeah.
And I had another golden retriever exactly the same color as her. And one day I walked into the kitchen and I thought, Isaac is licking the dishwasher. He's
Okay.
never ever done that. He tried it when
I,
he was a puppy. I told him, no, I don't think so, thank you. And he was like, okay, no, I
yeah.
won't do that again.
Yeah.
And as I got closer to the dishwasher, the retriever started to fade. And I knew she'd just popped in to go, I'm still here, here I am. Um, I was very linked with her, and she actually informed me of her passing 10 months before she
Okay.
became ill and passed. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
they're around us, but we miss their presence terribly. But watching them cross over, watching other animals come in to collect them that they've known, or angelic
yeah.
presences come in to collect them, it's just the most beautiful thing to witness. So this work completely changed my opinion on so many things, but death being one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
I love that. And I'm really thinking of the childhood dog, because I hadn't really thought, I mean, I've always believed in spirit, the spirit world and the passing over. But I hadn't really thought. I have this thing where I'm quite detached from my ancestors and things like this. And then I'm like, oh yeah, when I think of Losty, his name was Losty, he's probably around me. And then I had a reading at a fair years ago, and she was like, oh yeah, there's two dogs. Like there's a sheepdog, and then this other black dog, which was actually my mum's dog. And I tend to get my family members, because no one else in my family tunes in, so they're like, yeah, well, we're with you, because like, you might pass on, or or you'll tend to the family, because none of them would connect consciously, to the loved ones.
Mm.
So I tend to get the kind of messages, or the sensations. But yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
I think somebody said to me once, well, how come it's you that can see all
Yeah,
this stuff? Why
yeah.
is it just you? And my response was, well, it isn't, but you've
Yeah.
got to be
You
open
got to
to it,
you've
and
got
you've
to
got to
ask, haven't
have,
you?
particularly for things like animal communication, you have to master the art of stepping aside from the conscious mind, because there is nothing that will stop a communication session more than thinking through, oh, I need to phone so and so, and oh, I
Okay.
must
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that. Well, what am I going to
Yes.
cook for dinner? Or whatever
Yes.
it is. If conscious
Yes.
mind is
Yes.
running, that
Yeah.
doesn't work. The other thing that it will do, if we're not careful, is try and fill in the gaps for us, because some communications flow absolutely freely and you can get an enormous amount of information quite quickly. Some
Mm,
are come in little bursts, and the way that people receive the information is through a whole different set of things. So we can
mm,
have a thought form, just a knowing
yes.
that
Yeah.
oh, I know that this is this. We can feel pain in our body. So if I'm working with a four-legged animal, my arms are my front legs and my legs are my back legs. That's how
Yeah.
it works for me.
Yeah.
It might be
Yeah.
different for somebody else. Um,
Sure.
and we can smell stuff, we can hear stuff, we can see stuff, all of these different ways that the
It
information
compares,
comes
isn't it?
in.
Yeah.
But sometimes we only get bits, and
Mm,
it's literally a case of holding the bits and not allowing the conscious mind to say, well, I got that bit, so that must mean this, because we
mm,
don't always
don't
know
know.
exactly what it
Yeah.
means. But
Yeah.
very often when we feed it back to the guardian, it makes sense. So
Yes.
I had a fabulous Labrador that I worked with a few years ago, who it was quite a clear communication anyway. And this isn't a common occurrence, I have to say this first off, but immediately I felt Archangel Raphael. And the Labrador brought through a channeling from Archangel Raphael, which I sit with notepad when I'm working. And I wrote the whole thing down, read it back, thought, well, that's quite beautiful, but how the heck am I going to feed this back to the person? They're going to think I'm completely bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I thought, well, my ethos is if I get it, then
Sure.
I deliver it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if it's painful stuff, I have to just be very mindful of how I
Mm,
deliver it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I fed this back to the lady, and she said, oh my goodness, that's just answered the prayer that I have been calling
Oh
out for
God.
weeks. I have been calling out to Archangel Raphael and asking a particular question, and that's just answered it for me. So um,
Oh, brilliant.
but the conscious mind, my conscious
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
kicked
Yeah. Yeah.
in and was like, she's going to think you're bonkers, Lesley. Come
Yeah.
on, can you really say all that? Can you
Yeah.
say, well, we bought in Archangel Raphael, the dog did it, it's a
Yeah.
little bit far-fetched,
Yeah.
but
It
it
is. It's so much about trust, though, isn't it? So
absolutely. And one of
just
my things, well, I have two, I love buzz phrases, and when I teach animal communication, let go and let it flow, and trust, prepare, flow, share, and listen, understand. And then when you fed it back, it's down to the human to make the difference.
yeah.
The guardians need to be the ones who are making the changes in the animal's life. Um, Sometimes it's really silly and simple. I worked with a dog, a really cute little terrier, and one of the things I got was she bought me a new bed. I won't go in it. Don't like it because she's moved it and it's in a draft. If she were to put the bed on the sofa, I would go in the bed. I fed this back. 10 minutes later, I got a phone call. This was in the days before we routinely WhatsApped one another with photos and things like that. And she said, "You're not going to believe this. I put the bed on the sofa. The dog is now in the bed." So, you know,
Yeah.
just a little difference to be
Makes
made.
sense.
But
Yeah.
she was wandering around the house saying, why? I've spent all this money on this beautiful bed and you won't go in it. What's wrong with it? And it
Yeah.
wasn't the bed, it's just where it was. He didn't want a draft.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
can be really simple stuff
It's
like that,
funny,
or
isn't it? It's almost like people don't realize that their pet is not a toy, fluffy thing. It's like it's a being. It's like treat it like a person, which is, I don't mean to be insulting in that, you know what I mean? But it's like it has its own mind, for goodness sake. It's not going to just follow your every whim, you know? It has its own wishes and wants and needs, doesn't it? So it's so perfect.
absolutely. And what we're talking about here is working soul to soul.
Yeah.
So sometimes the physicality, just like it is in our life,
Yeah.
we don't always align with our soul. When people experience road rage, that's not their soul working. That's the very humanistic side of us wanting,
Sure.
you just cut me up.
Yes. I
So
need to get
and
somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
animals are governed by instinct as well, and they will behave, a dog will behave in a canine way,
Mhm.
as opposed to a human way. And there is a slight danger of anthropomorphizing our animals and assuming that they think like, hairy people, and that's not necessarily the way it is. But when we're working soul to soul, we are all part of the same whole. And all
Mm.
you're doing is just tapping into that connection that we already have. It's going back to, you were saying when you were a child, most children can speak to animals.
Mm.
Most children will have had a communication, if not with an animal, with a relative who's passed away, or they
Mm.
will they will see something. And very quickly it gets shut down in our society. Don't be silly. That the cat didn't say that to you because they can't talk. And
Yeah.
children learn to self-censor and
Yes.
learn how to shut all of those things down.
Yes.
And so when I teach, I'm very much about, we are remembering how to do something that we can do already. This is just about
Yeah.
remembering how to do it. This
Yes.
isn't about doing a course and learning new stuff. This is
I get
already
you. It's
within
about
us.
peeling back the other stuff that you thought, and getting back to the where we really are. Can I ask you something? It's just it just come to mind too, because something that really came clear for me in the last 10 years when I've really been focusing on this type of work myself is that I could see that I'm a knower. So in Claire's senses, that's Claire Cognizant. If you've been watching the series, these for a while and you didn't all know any of that, we often talk about that. So would I be right in saying that some people, even into adulthood, might be because to me, when I look back at those animal things, I was knowing a lot in these different scenarios. It was like, and then I think, oh, I'm arrogant. How you kind of think, oh, I shouldn't, I don't say anything because it's not my place to say. But it's a knowing, it's a feeling of I can see da 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 da, and you just get knowing. So but for me, a lot of people are probably having that. Is it that when you're connecting with an animal, do you hear words or is it more the knowings?
I
Like
think
you
we all
just
we all
see,
have a dominant Claire, don't we?
right, okay,
And
yeah,
mine is also clear knowing.
knowing, yeah,
But that doesn't mean that the others aren't
others,
present.
yeah,
And it really depends on who you're working with. So the energy of the animal that you're working with and how they are able to connect with you. So I worked with a traumatized horse once, and normally I will invite an animal to come to me, come into my space. This is,
mm,
it's the merest hint of a technicality, this, but come to me, let's connect together. Bit like the Zoom meeting, I'm used to being the one who's got all the pressy buttons as opposed to the
yeah,
person who's being interviewed. But this horse was so traumatized and had such bad trust issues, it was like, no, no way, no way.
yeah,
And I'd been looking at by location, and I thought, well, here's an opportunity to give it a go. And
sure,
I managed it. I have to say, I am not an avid bilocator. I have managed it a couple of times in my life, but I decided to take myself to the horse and stand in its stable with it so that I could let it know that I'm safe and I'm okay. So it's about adjusting that clear knowing, but also to we experienced different stuff in our bodies, like I was saying earlier. If
Mm.
there's a problem with the front left leg, I will get a problem somewhere along my arm, and if it's nearer the ankle, it's going to be my wrist, and I will feel it. If
Yeah,
it's it was quite unpleasant. I worked with a dog whose food really disagreed with it, and it made me feel what it feels like in its tummy.
yeah,
um and I thought, oh, this isn't nice. But as soon as you've understood it and you've
taking on the
you've
message.
acknowledged it, you can let it go. So, and sometimes I will hear stuff, and
And you,
sometimes I will see stuff. But
yes,
my
it,
strongest one is this clear knowing.
yeah,
Um,
I
but that
see.
doesn't mean that the others aren't present and working.
Yeah, yeah,
And there are so many, aren't there? There are so many more subtle ones than
yes,
the
yes.
main
The
ones
more
too.
I work with clients, the more I realize when because predominantly I work with healing one to one, and it's often I have this thing with IDS coaching because I have this way I work with them, but really, majoritively, it's all healing and it's often intuitively based. And you're right, because sometimes I'll ask a question and I think, oh, it feels a bit funny to ask that. And it's exactly what they needed to ask to peel the next thing. Or I'll be feeling, and I'm like, can you feel this in your body? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, because that was, and I think, oh, yeah, of course, my heart's getting, crunchy because it's their heart. And, so yeah, absolutely. It's a very blended experience. But for years,
Absolutely.
I didn't have the language of the Claires to understand that I was getting that everywhere all the time. And
Mm.
I just became really overwhelmed with people and just didn't really want to be around people. Now I'm just like, oh, I get it now. It's this is how
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
message.
And you can very much feel it if you're working with an animal who suffers from like stress and anxiety. My heart just pounds in my chest. I become
Mhm.
short of breath. All of those things that people experience when they have an anxiety attack, you know?
So,
So,
yes, I really do. And I've just had like a knowing hit, if you like, of about this dog in Portugal because what unfortunately in Portugal there's a lot of dogs that are just left to be, you know, some are not treated well at all. Some are fine, but there are some where the dogs are just left to run free. And that was really challenging for me after this incident. And I've lived there 3 times, about a year and a half each time. And it was the first time that this dog, we just literally were walking around the lake, my ex and I, and literally just came across this dog. And my intuition is always, oh, and then it was like, oh no, this dog is so pissed. And it was just instantly at us. So, we were just backing away, backing away, backing away. And then suddenly, for some reason it went and we were just like, whoa. But the hit I just got then is the I get triggered by the same look, like if I see a dog coming around the corner at me, if it's coming towards me, there's the things that are in my nervous system. But the hit that I just understood then is I am carrying some of its energy because, of course, a dog is not going to attack like that unless it's severely traumatized. Like it must, you know what I mean? They're not. So many other dogs are just so happy to see you, and while I had that cleaner energy, I would always be connect to the dog and then be like, oh, hi, human. Sorry, the dog obviously just wants to come and say hello to me. It can sense that I'm a dog safe person. And so, yeah, a lot of what I've carried is actually the pain of that dog. It's like it feels like I connected to it, and now it's the same that I am picking up on only dogs who have a wobbly energy themselves. So
mm,
because often again, this is where I'm starting to realize a lot of times I think, oh God, what's wrong with me? And it's not always what's wrong with me. It's a match because I've got a wobbly bit about dogs, and the dogs that are wobbly, it's a match, isn't it? So, and met
Yeah,
one this
and of course, animals are way
wood cat.
more energy sensitive unless they've been really badly abused. Way more tuned in, energy sensitive than most people because we're so busy in our lives. We have to, run at 100 miles an hour, and there isn't time to tune in, even though people who don't even believe in this stuff will talk about a funny vibe, or or oh, I just knew that wasn't right, but I went ahead and did it anyway, and
Sure,
now I regret it because I didn't listen to my gut feeling,
sure.
so there's all of those things that people experience, but animals will, particularly dogs, will pick up on body language. So
Mm,
if your shoulders tense up, if your eyes go a bit bigger, all of those things you might not even be consciously aware of. If you're worried and you think, I need to check this dog and watch it, and you stare at it, you're
yeah,
you're in line for a direct threat there because you're staring.
yeah,
And eye contact is a really
yeah,
important flashpoint. So
sure.
there's all of that going on, as well as the dog being able to read your energy. And I have I haven't got proof of this, but I believe that animals definitely can see people's auras and energy fields.
Yeah,
So you will,
yeah,
and they can certainly feel them if they can't see them. And so this is why when
yeah,
I walked into a cafe the other day in a local town to me called Wadhurst, and somebody came in with their dog, and the dog looked at me. I said hello because I do, and the dog left his human and came and sat by me the whole
yeah,
time I was having a cup of
yeah,
coffee.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah,
had his lunch in peace, the guy, and thanked me for making a fuss of his dog. But the dog was just attached to my leg the whole time. Now,
yeah.
because I'm a healer, I wasn't consciously giving the dog healing, but I know that that is what my energy field is about. That dog was
Sure.
getting something that it wanted from me,
Yeah, yeah,
along with a tickle behind the ear or whatever. So,
sure,
um,
sure.
yeah, they're so energy sensitive.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And you're reminding me so many times when again a dog will beeline for me, and if I'm in a good place and it hasn't triggered a memory, of the thing in Portugal, I'm just like, yeah, you're having like this conversation with the dog, aren't you? And you're just like, yeah, okay, hi, human, bye. And it's just making me think. I'm wondering because I saw a dog on my run this morning, and it's a friend of mine's dog, and it's like it's interested in me, and then it's like nervous, and then I'm a bit like, oh, and I'm like, it's a little dog, it's not, it's on a lead, so a lot of the triggers that in my field are not there. And then it did a bark, and I'm just wondering if you could help me if I'm sensing that a dog is, let's just say, wobbly, and I've have my bit of wobbly. Is it better if I just look away and walk away, or is it better to kind of be, oh hey, try and be okay with it? Like, what's your recommendation in
Take
that?
it to human terms.
Yeah,
If you saw, I'm going to be probably a bit sexist, if you saw a really cute looking guy in the high street,
yeah,
would you go up to him and stroke him on the head? Um, we don't randomly walk up to
yeah,
strangers and
yeah, yeah.
try and pet them, because
Sure.
we know in our human society that's it's not nice. It's
Oh,
not nice if a stranger comes up and starts touching you, and yet we expect our dogs to
yeah,
accept
sure.
touches from strangers. And
Sure.
also, what people always do, and I have done this to my dog training and behavior clients when I was working. I don't do that so much anymore. It's not part of what I do. But when I was doing that, if I had a somebody who just couldn't grasp the fact that doing this over a dog's face isn't necessarily very nice for the dog, I would
Right.
do it to them, and immediately they would flinch and do this, and I would say, you don't like it, do you? why would your dog like it? Why does a dog that you've never met before
Yes,
want
yes,
you to go over the top of its
yes.
head if you're going to approach sideways, offer a hand first,
Let it
see what the
come
dog
to you.
does. What
Yeah,
the dog in the painting behind me, so there's a Irish setter and a cocker spaniel. The cocker
sure.
spaniel is my dog Daisy. She
Ah,
loves other dogs, and she's never been abused. I've had her since she was tiny, but she doesn't like new people. She's hypersensitive, and she needs to take time to get to know people. But she'll go up to any dog and say hello. And quite often these dogs are attached to their humans, and the human, because she's cute, will immediately want
uh,
to make a fuss of her, and
us.
she backs away. It's like, give me
Yes,
space, give me space. And we have to honor that, actually, because we don't like it.
yes,
So if the dog
yes,
wants a fuss, that's great. Approach slowly.
yes.
Don't go
And
over the top of
often
the head if it's
it
somebody
will
you don't
make
know.
it will make it clear as well. Sorry
Yeah,
to
and sometimes people are so quick that the dog doesn't have time to do all the, I'm giving you body language here, I'm
yeah,
not liking it. So it has to react just
yes,
like we would if somebody came up that we
yeah,
didn't know and touched us. We would immediately push
yeah,
them away, get off,
yeah.
or shout at them or something.
Do you know what's kind of funny? It's so true. For years, okay, I have a diagnosis of autism, and I mean, I always look soul first, label second. I'm not really interested, but I was actually guided with a friend of mine. We both needed to get a diagnosis. And we're actually writing a book on it because I believe, first and foremost, I'm just a sensitive old soul, and I knew that as a kid. I saw many of my lives, as a kid. And but I still carried what I see as, and I don't know why it's seen as like a bit of an autistic thing, certainly amongst people that are self-diagnosed, that they think, and I have thought, that you're meant to be able to get on with everyone and therefore all animals. Like it's like everyone's the same. And then the thing with the dog, that because I have done so much work around this situation with the dog, because it's almost like I felt I'd failed. Then I was like, no, I didn't traumatize the dog. I absolutely love dogs. It's not my fault. It was hurting. So that showed me a thing. Oh yeah, it's not about me. The dog was just going, piss off. I'm scared and angry, and I don't know you, and you're a threat. Oh yeah, not a fault, just an understanding. Oh yeah, people get pissy when they've had trauma, just like humans. That, dogs, there's so many lessons, and realizing I'm not going to have to get on with everyone. Not everyone's going to like me, which is kind of like quite hard to grasp, but it's part of why we learn, isn't it? It's how we learn. Obviously, in our higher selves, you could say in an ideal world, all of our souls have that connection and I want to say potentiality of pure love connection. But on this
Absolutely.
plane, with the trauma, with the past, it's not happening and it's not a failing. So this dog and this scenario, it's like I don't have to mind. It's almost like I'm seeing it like I've got to like have a conquest of being able to connect with every single dog in the world. No, not
No, and also I wouldn't take it
oh,
personally. So that dog had learned
yeah,
over time through some sort of trauma response that if it does that, people generally back away.
way. Yeah,
And so job
yes,
done. It's a bit like every dog up and down the country. They think they are the best postman, getting
yeah,
rid of the postman every day because the postman comes up to the garden path, puts the letter through the letterbox, the dog goes ballistic, the postman goes away again. So there
sure.
must be thousands of dogs up and down the country saying, yes, we can
I
get rid of postmen. That's
but
fabulous.
yes, yeah,
Um, so it's the same kind of thing. And some people do take it personally, which is where the animal communication really comes in to get a deeper understanding of why an animal is doing certain things. And by doing that, it can be an enormous healing. And the healing begins when the animal feels heard because they
yeah,
don't generally. And sometimes I've had so many people have said to me, the animal is so different. I bump into people in the street. You worked with my horse a year ago. You wouldn't believe the difference after
Mm.
you'd communicated with it.
Yeah, yeah,
And always for me, I think, oh well, I would have loved a message to just tell me, because every animal I communicate with, I sit there afterwards and wonder how they're doing,
yeah.
and it's not my place to tune into them without the permission of their humans, and
Yeah,
therefore, it's nice when people tell you
yeah,
um,
yes,
how they're doing, and some people use it as a process of, if the animal has a diagnosis of an illness. So obviously we're not in the business of replacing veterinary care or anything like that, but there's an illness going on. They want to know how they are going to know when the animal's had enough, basically. And that's a big part of this work too. And
yes,
sometimes they're not ready to let go, and
yeah,
it's part of this of trying to help them understand when that time is right for the animal. uh, I worked with a Labrador last year, towards the end of last year, and she was very, very sick. And the minute I tuned into her, I thought, oh my goodness, you really are sick. She was under the vet, but the people wanted her to get better, but she was old too. And I thought, I immediately knew she's
you go,
not
she's ready
going
to
to
go.
turn the corner here. This is her end of life. But what she showed me was that when she went into a really deep sleep, she left her body, and she showed me a beautiful park or garden. I wasn't sure if it was a public space or but it was beautiful. And she was running with another dog.
Mm,
And I fed this back to the human, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about," kind of thing. And I decided, it's so clear, was it? I decided to press the point and described a little bit more about what I was seeing. And she was literally leaving her body, going to spirit side, and playing with her sister who'd passed a couple of years before.
oh,
Um, so and just that helped the people know that she's suffering really badly,
yeah,
and
my saying,
she needs to be helped,
yeah,
um, because they were holding on and holding on because it's painful.
yeah,
But just that was the thing that was able to make the change. So it's, on one hand it sounds sad, but on the other hand, that's a beautiful thing.
really is,
Mm,
really, really is.
mm.
Gosh,
I
thank
mean, there is a downside to the animal communication work as well, where, you were talking about the dogs in Portugal. You can be shown things that have happened before the animal has come to be with its present guardian. And some of those things, I try not to hold on to them, but there's one or two that have really shaped my way of, yeah, scarred me a bit, because you cannot believe how people can be quite so
you.
not kind. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
good
yeah.
thing is they're in a place now where you can help them get over that, understand some of their triggers. So you know, uh, don't walk behind the horse in that way,
Yeah,
because, or
yeah,
don't grab the dog by its collar because that's a precursor to having a smack, or whatever, and so just by those subtle things that can really make a difference too. So
oh,
yes, it's good work. It's good work.
oh, it is. It's so important because I feel like we get so much benefit. I mean, it like being in nature. I was stood by a tree today and just tuning in and just having a chat with the tree and just, and if you are respecting them, we get so much. So with animals, as I said, I don't have animals, but I have had cats come, into my life, like come through a window, and I'm like, oh yeah, hi, you got something to, just some love. another day I was at a nature reserve and a little tiny cat. I thought it was a kitten when I met it a few years ago, and it would come and sit in my car, and I just needed that love and that company. And I thought, oh, am I meant to take it home? And I checked around, and no, it had a home. It was just really loving on me, and hadn't seen it for years. And I went there the other day, and I was like, yeah, I really just needed that, like completely unconditional cat love, you know. So,
Absolutely.
you
And of
know,
course the animals, some animals are healers without
sure.
shadow of a doubt.
Yeah,
I had
really
the
felt.
Irish setter before Walter in the picture behind, was a healer,
Yeah,
without shadow of a doubt. He would literally go up to people,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
not just random people who he didn't know, but
yeah,
he would go up to people and he would press his head against their leg, and I knew exactly what he was doing, but I had to
sure.
be careful with him because he didn't know what to do with what he was taking on board from people, and it
Uh,
would cause him to have an upset stomach.
okay, so
Um,
he's transmuting it through
mm,
that way.
mm.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
but yeah, it's
oh gosh.
yeah, it.
Lesley, I could talk to you about this for like I'm going to say, look, come on again and let's talk more, because it's just I just love this, and I just think it's so important, and I wish more people would know. I mean, my dad has he left when I was 16, and he took that family dog because it kind of was it was all of ours, but you know, whatever, he took him, and then he's had dogs. And it always makes me laugh because when he's with the dog, he's like a child, but he had a troubled childhood, and you know, I can see my dad's stuff, like, you know, and he doesn't want to know, typical, you know, I don't look at the past, and you're like, yeah, whatever. And the dogs are like, I'm like, yeah, go dogs, because you're healing my dad, and it's just lovely. um what I was going to say, yeah, I really would like to talk to you more, but I have one question. We took just to go back a few arcs before. We were talking about dogs and animals passing over, and you know, we don't euthanize humans. So why is it with animals that, like, okay, what was coming to me is that there's a natural arc of our one's life, right? Whether we're a human or a tree or an animal. So why is it that animals don't necessarily pass naturally? You know, that there's so much euthanasia. Is it because the human is trying to prolong them, so that bit at the end is kind of like wouldn't normally happen? Does that make sense? I mean, do you have a sense, because you've done this work a long time, you know?
um
I don't know if that
I
makes
think that it's a vast subject that we probably
okay.
haven't got time for right now.
Yeah,
There's so many. Having worked in the vets like I did, there is a whole range of spectrum for euthanasia, and there would be a rush of people before Christmas who wanted put to sleeps because it was a bit inconvenient. There's that end of the spectrum. And then
okay.
there's the other end of the spectrum where an animal is suffering, and the connection and the love of the human is so great that they don't want to have to make that decision for themselves. They want the animal to do it for them.
Yeah,
And there are, just as there are in the human world, there is a whole range of opinions on whether that is right, or whether we should allow all our animals to die a natural death. I can only tell you from my own perspective. I wouldn't wish to tell anybody else what's right and what isn't right. My
sure.
perspective is, if it were me, I would want to be able to make that choice for myself. And for my animals, I don't want them to suffer. So I had a little dog put to sleep last year, had the vet visit the house. I hadn't taken him to the vets previously. I knew he was sick. I knew he had a tumour in his tummy. And the minute he stopped enjoying his walks, and he was 14, and just let me know I've had enough. I made that decision for him. I then asked the visiting vet to check out his tummy for me and confirm that there was a tumour in there. And he said, yes, and you've made the right decision. So, but that's me. It's a very, very personal thing. But my personal belief is, why allow them to suffer just so that we can squeeze an extra few days
Mm,
for
mm.
us? Um, I ponder if that might be a selfish act as opposed to a selfless one.
Yeah, no, I do hear you with that. And similarly but different, my an uncle was very, very ill a few years ago. And again, like none of my family look on things on a soul level. They're just like, oh, he's got this thing. And I'm like, yeah, I think his soul's gone. Like, he's kind of
Mm.
he's just let him go. And my mum phoned me. She was actually away and said, oh, they're not sure about this uncle. And I made a prayer. My prayer was, let him go. And literally the next day he passed. And I don't know whether it was connected, but my sense was, my intuition was, they're keeping him, and he's gone. He'd gone like 2 years before. He was just really just, is
Mm.
playing out the thing. And it felt like they just couldn't let him go. He was such, oh God, he was so loved. He was such a loving, kind, gentle soul. And he kind of was that person for those family. And they didn't want to let him go. And it
Yeah.
yeah, so
And sometimes it's those ties that hold people, that or
yeah,
fear.
sure
That
of it
some people are fearful of death.
yes,
But sometimes it's people just holding on because they can't bear the thought of the loss. And it's the same with the animals. The animals come and they're a huge part of people's
yeah,
lives. They become family.
yeah,
And there's this real sort of entanglement that goes on. And sometimes they are emotional crutches for people. And so, what happens if they're not there? But,
yeah,
we've all got to go at some point.
yeah,
I know for me, being a little bit of an independent soul, that my worst nightmare would be being completely dependent on everybody for my every need. And I would rather not have
oh,
that for myself.
yeah. No,
Um,
I really get you with that as
mm.
well. Gosh, that is a whole other conversation, isn't it?
And
Oh,
quite controversial because there's a
yeah.
lot of different opinions about it. But
Yes. And
mm,
that's the thing, isn't it? As I've gone down this journey, like you said, we're all learning all the time. It's really seeing that even what we would do and can see, it's everyone is learning, like each dynamic and each family system, they're in a learning thing, they're in a learning thing. And the piece that I have really relatively recently found from, okay, you just have your learning, we're all on our own curriculum, and what feels natural, like it's been natural for me to see that I'm the soul, I'm a soul, like first and foremost. So people like, what's your name, and sometimes I can't think, because it's like I'm not thinking I'm Caroline all the time, because I have all these, soul memories. It's like I know that's just this life thing, and but for some people that's just like, they're not there yet, and that they're learning about cooking, and that's fine.
absolutely. And I think that the whole point of this, and for folks like us, is non-judgment, love, and acceptance for taking people where they are. Doesn't mean we have to like and agree with what they're doing,
Sure.
but we just have to hold the love for in our hearts for everybody. My opinion is there's no, well, I hold unconditional love. Oh, but apart from you, because
Yeah,
I don't agree with what you're doing, it really doesn't work like that. And
yeah,
if you're lucky enough to get that lesson, I mean, my lesson for understanding the separation of soul to body was through severe pain with my back. I was able to take myself to a place where I was able to leave my body and there was no pain. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. I
yeah,
am myself here. That's just my like my car that I'm riding around in right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And as soon as I understood that, um, everything else fitted into place and everything else was easier. And it was easier then to find love and acceptance. And we have to be it. And if we're the love and we're beaming it out, then that has a ripple effect out on the collective consciousness. And the more people that are able to have these experiences through, listening to teachings on your channel or my channel or whatever, the better, because it's about raising the collective consciousness away from division and labeling and selfishness and things like that.
yeah. Oh, you're speaking such good words there, Lesley. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to connect with Lesley, we'll put all the links below. So do reach out. I'm guessing you've got courses coming up. Have you got things coming up? What have you got
I
coming
do.
up?
I teach animal communication online and in person in East Sussex. I haven't got an in-person course planned now until next spring. A lot of my work is now online. I teach
Great.
Reiki. Then there's all sorts of other little things that I teach, little workshops like reawaken your Reiki, things like that for people who feel like they've lost their connection
Cool.
without
Okay.
having to go through the whole,
I've got
redoing
you.
everything,
Yeah.
um, stuff like that. But I'm always happy to speak to people if they're curious and just want to know more.
Animal, great. Okay, so do reach out, and I'm thinking, I maybe do the animal communication because maybe that's the thing. My background has meant my awakening was very sticky, and so I've spent years kind of getting my head around mental health labels, and I've got books in process, but it feels like that chapter of my life is very much coming to a kind of a shift, so that actually I'm like, now I can get on with all the goodies that when you're starting to work with spirit and healing, there's so many facets that all, to me, I'm just seeing now pictures like the spokes in a wheel, and it's all part of us healing and awakening and the time that we're all in. We didn't even get into talking about the new earth and all those types of themes, but we will surely speak again. But yeah, so it just all sounds wonderful. So do reach out to Lesley. And you said you had your YouTube channel, so we'll put the link there so
There
you
isn't a lot on there, but there's a little.
yeah, it's all worthwhile, isn't it? So thank you so much,
Thank you. Thank you
Lesley.
for having me on. Thank you. It's been a
Oh,
pleasure.
you are so, so welcome. If you had one nugget oh gosh, I mean, I feel like today has been filled with wisdoms from you. If you had one thing that you'd pass on to, let's say, guardians, pet guardians, what might you have to say? If you had one little bit of advice or
Ooh, um,
no, just to put you on the spot there.
mm, um, just be aware of your animal's needs, because there's an awful lot of animals out there whose needs aren't being met. Whether that's, everything from certain breeds of dog. I mean, you were speaking about, living in a flat and not having an animal. I have known people have border collies who are mega intelligent, very, very active, need a lot of mental and physical stimulation in a flat, not being walked and wondering why they have behavior problems. So see that your animal's needs are being met. And if you don't understand what your animal needs, go find out. We have this platform, the YouTube. There's so much stuff on there now that you can find out about the different needs of dogs, cats, horses, because they're all different species and they all need different things. So yeah, I suppose that just
Yes,
see that
yeah.
their needs are met. I'm not just talking about their physical needs, their emotional needs too.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mm.
so hear you with that. Thank you. And that point about hearing them, and it's the same. I mean, when I work with people, right, so much of it is just some part of them that just needs hearing. And as soon as it's heard, it starts with, the feelings all start resolving because you're just doing that soul awareness, aren't you? Giving it
Hmm.
space and time. So thank you,
Yeah.
Lesley. So thank you guys for joining. If you've made it this far, thank you. Do subscribe if you're new, and you'll catch more episodes. Next week we'll have Aurea and I think Nicolette, actually, my friend, another fellow author from France, will join on the show next week. And do reach out to Lesley. I'm going to be checking out your work and seeing about that online animal communication thing, because I think, yeah, I love animals, and see where that leads. So thank you, Lesley. Thanks, everybody. And
Thank you so much.
you're so welcome. And we'll see you next time on Ascension TV Online. Bye for now.
Bye bye.